Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I
Couldn't
didn't
figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Today's special guest is author, teacher, Bob Martin. Welcome to the show, Bob.
Hey, so happy to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, these days I'm a meditation teacher and an author, and I teach at the university called Elon, which is in North Carolina. And I also coordinate all of the mindfulness activities for the university, for the faculty and staff. So I'm a pretty busy guy, along with all kinds of stuff at the church.
Nice. So tell us a little bit about this book.
Okay, so I wrote a book called I Am the Way, Finding the Truth in the Life Through a Biblical Reimagining of the Tao. And in order to tell you about the book, I kind of have to give you a brief little personal history
of
how I got here. So I grew up, my folks were Eastern European immigrants. My dad was Hungarian royalty. And when the Bolsheviks invaded Hungary, they wiped out all of his family. And my mom was Roma Gypsy, and everybody wiped them out. So it turned out that they came to a conclusion that there really could not be a God. And I was not raised up as an atheist, but I was raised up as kind of a non-theist. It's just not something that was talked about
Square
in
one,
our
zero,
family.
default. You started
Zero,
off with the default.
yeah.
Zero gods.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
But the funny thing was this, is that my dad he says, you're an American and you need to know the Bible stories. So even though we didn't practice any particular religion, he always had me go to a children's Bible school to learn the Bible stories. And they taught me that there was this fella who loved me. And somehow that took root inside of me. And it's helped me through a lot of difficult periods. But going on anyway, as I grew up, I didn't have any particular religious or virtue-based system to give me a North Star. And my life was kind of going south in my 30s. I was seeing a therapist. Turned out that the therapist was the English language editor for a 72nd generation master from the Shaolin Temple, a Taoist. And so that was my first introduction to anything. So I kind of went from Taoism, I moved to North Carolina and Buddhism. And then of all people, I married a Southern Baptist Bible literalist. And she is a saint. In Buddhism, we use the word bodhisattva. And she's just a wonderful human being, and we connected on our values, but we really couldn't talk about anything that had to do with our belief systems. So I started taking some of the writings that I had been studying with Master Ni and searching the Bible and researching the Bible and looking in there to find things that were similar in stories or similar in teachings. And I certainly found that almost all of the teachings of the great Master Jesus was so similar that there was hardly a hair's breadth between them. So I just started taking some of the words out of the Bible and some of the ideas out of Taoism and kind of putting them together. And she really loved it. And I kept writing a little more. Finally, I reimagined all 81 chapters of the book, and she reads it and she'll say to me, Bob, there's no preacher that has ever taught me Jesus from this point of view. And she really loves it, and it's given us a way to speak to each other about what we believe in.
Hmm. So thank you for that. Great
Mhm,
story. Great story.
mhm.
So where do you stand now as far as the God question?
Okay, so this is where I am with the God question. I say it's above my pay grade, and I don't know. I know that there is a force for good in the universe.
Okay.
What shape it takes, whether it is self-conscious, whether or not it is a micromanager, whether it's watching over all my
Hmm.
activities, or whether it just has created a system that we exist in, those are all questions that are above my pay grade. But I am
Interesting.
convinced that there is a force and energy for good in the universe, and if we can only learn to align ourselves with it, life becomes effective, efficient, and joyful.
Yeah, I hear the same thing about Jesus as well. If
Mm-hmm.
only you would just commune with Jesus, your life will be great. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's weird. I have to commune with Jesus in order for my life to be great. It's a weird system to set in place, you know?
Uh-huh.
Uh, so as far as the force for good, and where does this come from? What convinced you that there is this force out there for good?
So in Taoism, one of the things that you practice on a regular basis is a particular system. It's a kind of a meditative, contemplative system where you seek out an understanding of the forces that are in effect in any particular situation. Let me give you an example.
Hmm,
Sometimes you know that you're talking to people and you have this brilliant idea and like nobody's listening to you.
hmm.
If that in Taoism we would call that particular situation, that particular kind of energy, we would call it a darkening of the light, where your best bet at that time is to stop talking. Nobody's listening, might as well stop talking
Hmm.
and use the time to prepare, for the time that people will be listening to you.
Okay.
There are times when everything's going with you and everything you touch seems to be golden. Well, that's the time that you want to try to move forward with all of your strength and all of your wisdom. There are
Huh.
times when everything's going against you. So in Taoism, we learn to try to tune ourselves into the energy that's around us. And as you practice that, as you align yourself with the interpersonal energies that are around you, you start to get a feeling and a sense that there is a more general, all encompassing energy. It's just a feeling that you get that's
A feeling.
unmistakable. Mm-hmm.
A feeling. All right.
Yeah.
So now we've crossed a whole new territory here. We've crossed into we're knowing because of a feeling. Now, how do we know that this feeling is an accurate feeling of
ah,
a good force or whatever it was? Yeah. How do we know?
we don't.
Ah. So
Now,
why
it
are we
could,
believing it then?
well, here, there's a very good reason to. Because we don't know what the truth actually is,
Okay.
we can go and adopt a truth for the hypothesis and see whether it's a helpful way of seeing things or a counterproductive way of seeing things. In other
Okay. So
words, for
go
me,
yeah.
I choose to believe that it is a force for good only because by believing that it's a force of good, I find more joy in my life. If you ask me, do I know that it's the truth? I have to say no,
Huh.
but I'll never know the truth. So I might as well choose a truth that works for me.
It's kind of to me, it's just kind of like pretending something is true. I could pretend that I live in there's this cartoon I loved as a kid called Dino
Mm-hmm.
Riders. I don't know if you remember that show. So dinosaurs and they ride the dinosaurs and they do things. Anyways, but I could live in that world. My car could be a dinosaur. My everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just pretending that this thing is real at that point. I don't know that in another universe I could do this. But I mean, I can pretend in this universe that I can, or I can pretend that I have a best friend that, like Jesus, I can pretend he's there with me the whole
Right,
way.
right,
But
right, right.
but it
No,
doesn't make it any more real, and
that is
it turns those feelings into fantasy. Is kind
you
of what I'm
you
seeing.
You're absolutely correct.
Mm.
And I would say it's an operational hypothesis, more
Ah,
so.
oh my, I am that is amazing. Operational hypothesis.
Hypothesis. So let me give you a little game that I used to play with my son. I think it brings it into focus what I'm
All
talking
right.
about. So we used to have a game that because I have a master's in social work and I had studied under Martin
Mm.
Seligman, positive psychology and the like. I'm kind of tuned into some of this idea about meaning and purpose and the like. And if you've ever read Viktor Frankl, Man's
Mm.
Search for Meaning,
Man,
he
great
talks
book.
about how it's a
Great
great
book.
book.
Love that
Well,
book.
Frankl talks about the fact that life really doesn't have any meaning except the meaning that we put on it. It's the
Exactly. Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
We are pretending that it has a meaning and we're
Ah.
using it operationally to enhance the benefits and joy in our life.
So at that point, what I would
Mhm,
do and what
mhm.
I do is I would rather live in a world of truth, more things that are true than fantasy. I would rather believe in things that are real, as opposed to that. Does that make sense? You understand where I'm going with that?
It does, but if it is impossible to know the truth,
Right. So we're just going to
then
pretend
you have to
exactly.
have
It's
a
impossible to know the truth, but why pretend? Why believe a lie? But we don't even know if it's a lie. We don't know if it's a truth either. So at that point, it's I don't know. It's why would you want to believe in something that's not there?
it's I think the hang up is
Even
on the
if it
word I
is,
think that the hang up is on the word belief.
yeah. Okay. Well, what do you
Okay.
want to call it then? What do you want to call it?
Yeah, it's complicated. I see. I'm
Yeah.
with you 100%
Yeah. Okay.
because in Taoism there is no deity, there is no
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
We only call this energy that seems to flow. And in Taoism,
Mm.
positive and negative is not considered a value. It's considered two poles of a battery.
Huh.
And you need to have positive and negative for energy to be able to flow. That's yin and yang, and a lot of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
grows out of that. But it's not real. It's a belief that's backed
Yeah.
up by kind of physical truth.
Eee, but we don't even know if that physical truth is attached to those things. We can't attribute those physical things that are happening to something we don't know is there. Like it could be anything at that point. It could be Spider-Man in the dark helping you out. I don't know. Like, but at that point, we're just throwing things at it.
Well,
Um,
I don't
what
know.
I
I
want to
mean,
know though is
yeah, go ahead.
where does this energy come from? Like, who made the energy?
I don't know.
Like we got to go
But
back and
look,
back and back, right? We got people, blah blah blah,
we
and then the
can
energy. Where'd the energy come from?
see that a battery has a positive and negative pole, and without those two poles, there's no flow of energy.
When we put the
And we
battery
can,
together, we make that. So who made the energy?
I don't know,
Hmm. Hmm.
but is it important to know?
It kind of, I mean, it kind of helps with the story if you
I,
have a beginning to it.
yeah, it does help, but I mean,
Yeah.
we're not
Helps with the
there.
belief or the
We're not.
oh, see, that's the
We're
word. I
not.
don't know what else you want to use.
Well, it's still,
The
I go back to
supposing.
the fact. I go
Welcome to
back
the
to the fact
supposing.
that
Yeah.
quantum physics tells us that matter and energy are interchangeable. That their
Uh-huh.
energy, they talk about possibilities of existence, and they talk
Yeah.
about a lot of other things. But clearly, we can see in our own eyes and our own experience that energy can have a manifestation of moving motors and
Hmm.
moving objects and doing things. So
So
it's hard to deny the existence of energy.
well, no, I'm not denying the existence of energy, just that there is a good energy out there that has, I don't know,
Oh,
that can help
so we
people
go
and
back.
whatnot. The
So
good
we go
energy
to
part,
that.
yeah.
So
Is there bad energy? That's where the yang and yin all come together and whatnot.
well, bad energy and good energy is a value system that man imposes on yin and yang, and
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
not it is not yin and yang.
Okay. So
There is nothing about yin and yang that has a good or bad to it. It's simply a negative and a positive pole.
you got good energy. So it's not good energy. We're just going to call it positive energy because
Positive,
that just
like a battery's positive pole.
great. Yeah, because then I can just use the word bad energy, and we don't like the word bad energy, so we'll go with positive and negative. So
Right.
the negative energy, we don't know where that comes from either. We just know that there's good, positive and negative energy in the
Well,
universe.
I mean, if you get technical, you know that electrons flow and they move from one atom to another atom, and
Right,
there's
but
stuff
this
like
isn't like a
kinetic.
conscious thing that can affect your feelings. You know, these particular energies apparently affect feelings, and that's where I'm kind of
Well, yeah,
curious and
but that
confused.
the feelings, because we have an electrical system in the brain, and we have neurotransmitters, and we have neurology in the brain, and neurons that fire together, wire together, and they create neural pathways. And we know this. We know this. We know that as you continue to think on a particular area, or have repetitive thoughts, that more and more neurons that fire together wire together, and they make thicker and thicker neural pathways. Now,
I can't
the
verify any of
interesting
that.
thing is,
I don't know.
anecdotally, we know this. Well, we all know that
Hmm.
the filament in a light bulb, which
Hmm.
is very, very thin, has a lot of resistance to electricity, and therefore it heats up and glows, and that's where we get light and heat from.
I can be behind that. Great. Okay. All right.
Okay. So what they have hypothesized,
Uh-huh.
and we're talking anecdotal information here, but they've hypothesized that the neural pathways that flow in our brain, if they're thin ones, they have resistance, and they feel like, this is hard for me to think about, or I don't like to do math because it's hard for me.
Hmm.
Whereas thicker neural pathways allow energy to flow more easily. And
Huh.
they go, oh, yeah, I like to do that, or that's an habitual pattern, or the like. And so these neural pathways and neural transmitters that flow around in our body create certain things that evolutionarily have caused us to be able to survive.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if you get into evolutionary psychology, you know, it all kind of fits together.
Well, it's very interesting. I can't verify any of that. I'm definitely not a scientist, biologist, brainologist, or any of that stuff. But we can all verify that later. Everybody look it up. Let me know.
Sure.
So the benefits. I want to get back to the benefits. What are the
Okay.
benefits of the of the operational hypothesis?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to that game that I used to play with my son.
Yeah.
So whenever something happens, generally speaking, a thought occurs. Something happens and you get a thought. And based on that thought, you usually have some kind of emotional reaction. But because it's your thought, and you kind of believe that I am my thoughts, because it's your thought, immediately you put truth on it, a sensation. This is true. It's my thought. If that guy's walking around with his pants halfway down around his butt, you know, and you say, oh, and fill in the blank, whatever your judgment is,
Huh.
for you, that's your truth. That is
He's
your
missing
truth
a
for that
belt.
moment. He's missing a belt, whatever it is, it's your truth. So I played a game with him. I said, well, whenever one of us jumps to a conclusion about some opinion that comes up for us like the truth, the other one can challenge it.
Huh.
So we go out to Applebee's, and the waitress comes over. She goes, hi, my name's Joni, and, you know, I'm going to take care of you tonight, and da 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 da. She's all that. And so
Nice job, bud.
his immediate reaction, and he says it, is, oh, she's really bucking for a tip. So that became his truth. So I challenged it. And I don't mean to be a little off color here, but this is what I said. I said, well, maybe she got some last night, and that's why she's so, you know, happy. And so now it's game on. Now it's game on. So then he says, yeah, well, maybe she got a parent bought her a car. And I go, yeah, well, maybe. And so we came up with all of these things. And then I said to him, wait. I know what it is. She just thinks I'm incredibly handsome.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
And then he says, yeah, well, maybe. And I go, no, game over. That's it.
That's the
I'm
end of it.
accepting this one, and I'm going to go with this one. And so it wound up that she got a nice tip. We had a fun time with her. I walked out of there feeling good. He walked out of there chuckling about the whole thing. And the evening is a wonderful memory for us. Now, if we had put a different meaning on it, like she was bucking for a tip, the whole evening would have gone in a different direction. So I'm not saying one is true and one's not true, but I'm just saying the operational effect of choosing one that works for you and is helpful
Right.
after trial and error and experiment and
That's a way
testing.
of thinking, though, Bob. How does that fit in with energy? That's just changing your thought process or your way of thinking about a situation. Where does the energy come into play in that? Because that's you deciding to do something. Where does the
Yeah,
good flow of,
of
sorry, not good,
energy.
positive, the positive
So
energy come
in the
from?
same way that I decided that she was happy because I'm incredibly handsome,
Uh-huh.
over time and with experiments and with testing, I find that my coming up with the hypothesis that
Uh-huh.
there is an energy for good that exists in the universe just simply works for me. I don't
So,
impose it on anybody, and I don't tell anybody else it's true. If somebody asks me, how I see things, I see things. And the more, and it's like there was a book once called "You'll See It When You Believe It,"
yeah.
and
Yeah.
so by taking that hypothesis, I kind of you ever hear of confirmation bias?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I see things that happen in the universe, I see things around, and those things that confirm it, I accept, and those things that are opposed to it, I find a reason to reject. And I'm conscious of it, and I'm
Yeah.
aware of it,
Yeah.
and I know this, but it just simply makes my life happier and more joyful and more effective and efficient. So why
Yeah.
not?
Well, Bob, you're creating the positive energy. Your
Yeah.
choice to
Okay.
change your view creates that positive energy.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. So that's where it comes from, Bob. It comes
Okay.
from you. It
Okay.
comes from yourself.
Yeah.
It's all about your perspective. We go right back to what's his
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
We
You
give our
know,
life purpose, and you're giving your
right.
life purpose by being positive about things and
Mhm.
changing that viewpoint. Nice job, Bob. But I
Yeah.
still don't see where the actual force comes in, the actual thing itself. I just see you doing something good, but there's no energy involved. Really,
I-
it's just a change of thought and a view,
it's
and it
just
gives you good feeling.
it's just my thought that there
So
is
we
such
don't
an
even need that
energy.
energy part. Exactly. So we just get rid of the whole energy, good energy, positive energy, whatever you want to call it. We just get rid of that. And this doing this thing makes you feel good. So why do
Yes,
we need the energy part then, Bob? Why
because
add the extra sauce when it doesn't need the extra sauce?
well, it may not do anything for you, but it works for me. So why should I not do it?
Because you're already getting that energy by doing the changing of the view, by making the situation better. But now you're just thinking that it's an energy instead of you. You're the one
Yeah,
doing it, Bob.
well,
Give
I
yourself the
also
credit for that. Pat yourself. That's a great
I
job, man.
understand. I understand.
Yeah.
I also find that serving folks with the idea
Yeah.
that you're serving something that's greater than yourself,
It's nice to help. I
it
don't know
is
about
an
serving something that's
uplifting.
greater than yourself. Explain that. How does
Well,
that work?
it doesn't see, I don't know that it has to work. It just works for
Well,
me.
you said serving a greater, what'd you say? Sorry.
Purpose than yourself.
Right. Serving a greater purpose than yourself.
Right.
What do you mean by that?
It can be anything from the safety of my community around me.
Ah,
It could be
ah,
anything from making the world a better place. It can
yeah.
be anything. It can
Yeah.
be
So helping out
working.
makes you feel good about yourself.
Yes, it does.
Yes. But where does the energy come from then? If it's just you feeling good about yourself for helping out,
Well,
why
you
does there
say
have to be a positive or negative energy involved whatsoever?
because I want there to be.
Oh, okay. I guess we just narrowed it down right there. That's
Yeah,
just
no,
because I mean,
I am
ah,
not. I
I
am not
understand, Bob.
disputing. I am
Yeah.
not disputing anything about what you say about some ultimate reality or truth that may be out there in
Hmm,
terms of how the universe and the cosmos work. I'm not
hmm,
disputing any of that. All I'm saying is that these particular thought patterns give me a joyful life. They give me great success in life.
hmm,
They have taken me through the
hmm,
hard parts of my life. I I don't see that there's anything that is harmful to anybody or that
hmm.
it does any
Well,
bad to it has any negative effects on anybody.
Well, your
So,
success is going to have negative effect on somebody at some point because they're not getting it or they're not getting that pay. I guess
well,
that's just a
only if you
little
have only if you think of life in a zero sum capacity. I
well,
mean,
your success, you're going to get the ice cream, and somebody's not going to get the ice cream, or something like that. Yeah, but I mean, there's success. Like I was thinking, success, and the what is it? The benefit of the feeling. Like you had mentioned that sometimes when you're in the meditation state, or what was it? The what were you talking about? Mindfulness,
mhm.
mindfulness. So, do you have a
Meditation.
certain like a meditation state, and then do you commune with the force, or do you talk to the force, or does the meditation state help you understand the force
Oh no, no,
or
meditation
energy?
is nothing
Sorry,
like that.
nothing like that. Okay, so what
No,
does the
no.
meditation do?
The meditation is meditation generally and overall is just a process of understanding that there is my thoughts. There are my, most of us identify with our thoughts. We have a thought and we feel that I am my thoughts, but we're not. And meditation is simply a process of what scientists call metacognition, or thinking about your thinking.
Uh-huh.
So you step into a different place where you seem to be an observer of your thoughts. In other words, for me, I can get angry with somebody about something. I can express anger or grief or
Hmm.
sadness and the like. And
Hmm.
even as I'm doing that, I am standing in another place psychologically, and I'm watching myself be angry. And
Hmm.
in that, from that perspective of that observer of my anger,
Huh.
I'm calm. So I can maintain a certain calmness and equilibrium in my life, even though I can experience all of the different facets and emotions of life. And that gives me stability, from day to day and from moment to moment. And
Thank you,
it's
but
a training. Mm-hmm.
you said something there that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You said you watch yourself be
Mm-hmm.
angry. Which self is watching the angry
Ah,
self?
well, when you say I had a thought, I would ask you, who is the I that had the thought?
Michael had the thought. I,
Okay.
Michael, have thought. Ah.
Okay. Okay. So who's Michael? Is Michael your thought?
Me.
Is it your thought? Or is
No,
it, I mean,
no,
if you
Michael
want to
came up with
get,
a thought. Michael is
okay.
me.
And
All
where did that thought come from?
the whole complete, my
And
brain,
where did that thought come from?
my brain,
So
my
where did it
brain,
come from?
my brain.
Okay.
Where
And
all the
and
thoughts
where,
come from is my head, the energies that are in there, those
yeah,
neurons and
all
whatnot
that.
that
All
all
right.
that move around. Uh-huh.
So so the thing is that a lot of the thoughts that come up are there because, number one, of the particular education, training, and things and
Yeah.
experiences you've had.
Yeah. Oh
Also, the
yeah.
things that
Society experiences,
society has
day-to-day things that'll
imposed,
happen. Yeah.
conditioning,
Yeah.
and all that. They've all gone into a database.
Yeah.
And when something happens, it stimulates the database and it
Fires.
shoots up a thought. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, but there is a place where you can watch that operation occurring. I don't
Yeah.
know what you want to call it.
Yeah.
If you
It's a
were, if
CAT scan or whatever they call it. You can
no,
watch
no,
your neurons
it's
fire and all that.
no, you have a consciousness, a conscious state where you can watch your thoughts,
Well,
and
I don't know
that's
what
what
that means. I can
meditation.
watch my thoughts. How can I do it
You,
without a computer?
you can watch your thoughts. Well, if you haven't experienced it, it's pretty hard to explain.
Well,
But
it's watch
trust
your
me,
thoughts. Watch
yeah,
your
watch your thoughts.
thoughts.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I wanted to give you a metaphor, it would be like if you were like hanging out in the middle of the ocean in a diver's suit, and from the deep black down there, a bubble comes up, and it's a thought, and then it's here, and then it bubbles away, and another one comes up, and it bubbles away, and another one comes up, and it bubbles away. When you're trying to go to sleep at night and your mind is racing,
Ah, yes.
you're
Okay.
watching
Yes.
your thoughts. You're watching your thoughts when you do
How
that.
am I
You're just
watching them though? I think that's the
are
part I'm
we
confused about.
arguing
How am I
over the
watching them?
are
I'm
we
just thinking
arguing
them.
over the word watching?
Maybe it
If
just
you know,
confuses me. Not arguing. It's confusing. The word watching is confusing to me. How am I watching my thoughts when I am just thinking my thoughts?
you are thinking your thoughts, and you're also thinking about thinking your thoughts.
Thinking about thinking my thoughts, which means
Yeah.
I'm watching them?
I don't want to get into an argument over
I'm
semantics.
thinking.
If watching bothers, the word
No,
watching
it doesn't
bothers
bother
you.
me. It's just confusing. So I'm thinking about thinking thoughts. And what does
Well,
that mean?
you see your mind's racing and you have this thought and you notice the thought. I
What
mean,
does
I
that mean,
could.
though? What does it mean? Like, how does that relate to any of this?
So let me give you like what the instructions for basic meditation are. Okay. And you tell,
But
wait. Have you ever
so
been listening to somebody? Have you ever been listening to somebody and then all of a sudden noticed that you're not listening anymore because you're thinking about a bunch of stuff?
because your mind gets distracted. Yes, I squirrel all
Your
the
mind
time.
is distracted, but you
Yeah.
notice that your mind has been distracted.
Not during the time, until afterwards when I realize, oh crap, I need to be paying attention there.
Oh, you mean
So
it's
yeah, that's
never
not during it.
it's never happened that you stop listening and why the person's still talking, you go, "Oh, I'm not listening to him," and you got to go back and start listening again?
Yeah, that's
That's
what.
never
Yeah,
happened to you?
yeah, that's what I just explained.
Yeah. So that noticing that you're not paying attention when that was your intention to pay
My snapping
attention,
out of it.
it's a noticing. You
Okay.
notice it. You notice.
Okay.
So
I
you
noticed my
let's say,
thoughts had drifted. Yes.
okay, so you noticed your thoughts. Well, there you go. Don't use
God,
watching.
noticed. Oh, I love that much better.
Noticed.
Notice
So
my
you
thoughts. Yeah.
noticed your
Okay. So I
thoughts.
noticed that I'm thinking.
You notice that you're thinking. So that is a different place than the thinking itself,
Why?
because you're noticing that you're thinking. There's two things going on there. There's the noticing, there's the thinking, and the noticing of the thinking.
Right, but I stop thinking about the thing I'm thinking about, and I
Right,
start thinking
because
about noticing that I'm not paying attention anymore.
right,
So I'm
because
really
you're
not
not.
noticing. I'm not thinking about two things at once
Yeah.
simultaneously.
Yes,
I'm
but
stopping thinking of the distraction and going back and redirecting my focus to where it should be.
only because you don't meditate.
So if I
So
meditate,
if you meditate, you can stay in both places.
but only during meditation state,
No,
or
all the time.
during the regular day.
No, it trains you to be able to live in both of those places where not only are your thoughts coming up, but you're noticing your thoughts coming up. And that gives you much more access to being able to decide whether the thoughts that are being automatically generated by your database are helpful or not helpful. If you decide that, oh, look at that thought I just had, it's not very helpful because the reaction of people had to it wasn't very helpful,
Right,
then you
thinking
might
before you
decide
say.
that
That's just
maybe
yeah.
it's not a helpful thought. And then
That's
what
watch your
happens?
mouth type thing, watch your mouth. Okay, oh, well, I'm thinking this. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. Or this was a good thought. Maybe I should say that out loud.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
all noticing your thoughts, right?
I could do that all day long. Why do I have to meditate to
Because you
do
do it
that?
in a systematic way where you actually can change your brain with your thinking. You can actually change the neural pathways
Yes, yeah.
with your
Think,
thinking.
what is it? Think it, speak it, be it, something like that. Yeah,
Well, okay, that's like a habit, when you do
exactly. Just like a
something
habit.
over
I
and
don't need to
over,
meditate for a
you
habit. I could just
well,
build the
you
habit or
you discover
unbuild one.
things. You discover things and you discover new thoughts and you discover new capacities.
So in this meditative state, is
It's
the
not a meditative state.
in the
It's
meditation?
meditation.
Cool. Sorry, the word state. Sorry.
Well, that
during
makes
this,
it makes it sound tinkly and you're going to some other plane of existence, and that's not the
yeah.
case at all.
Okay, well, don't do that. Yeah, don't. That's a whole nother thing. That's
Right.
a whole nother world. But during this time when we're meditating, how is the positive energy interacting with us, and does it do it more when we're meditating, and why?
But you're going back to taking my kind of operational way that I choose to believe and turning it into a fact, and I'm not doing that.
Okay, that's fine. But how does it interact with you during the meditation? What does it do? What do you believe it does? Sorry, there's that word again, but we'll find another one there. What do you?
I don't.
I'm not pretend either. But what do
Yeah,
you? Operationally hypothesize. What do you operationally hypothesize during that situation?
So, one of the things that meditation does is I can only tell you things in stories. So one time I'm at a retreat And I come up with the idea that all of a sudden that this meditation makes such a big difference in people's lives that it's going to change the world. And so I couldn't sit on the mat anymore. I had to get up. I went to find a teacher and asked her if she would talk to me, and she said she would. And I said, oh, I was so excited. I was so, full of excitement and everything. I said, this stuff is really amazing. And I'm going on and on. And then she said to me, so you're having some thoughts about this? And I go, yes, I am having some thoughts about it.
Mm.
And he goes, and you're having some physical sensations also? I said, yes, I am having physical
Emotions.
sensations. Like my chest was heavy and my cheeks
Yeah,
were,
you're emotional.
I mean,
Yeah.
real physical sensations. And so then she said to me, Bob, I understand that you're feeling emotion, but emotion is nothing more than a thought combined with a physical sensation. She
Mhm.
said, because if you have a thought like, I love you, and there's no physical sensation with that, it's an intellectual statement. And if you have the sensation of your heart beating like you love somebody without a thought, you'll think you have indigestion. But when the two come together, you have an emotion. So you're having a thought and you're having a physical sensation. And I go, oh, okay. So go back to the mat, huh? She goes, yeah, go back to the mat. So that's one of the things that when
So
you
you changed your
say,
way of thinking,
well,
and
it
it calms
changed
you
my
down.
way of thinking about what emotions are, and it also gave me a way of thinking about it that allowed me to deconstruct emotions that don't serve me
Yeah.
rather quickly.
Yeah.
So if I feel myself becoming angry and I perceive that this is not an appropriate place
Yeah.
to be angry, I just quickly go check out what's the physical sensation that I'm feeling and where
Yeah.
am I feeling it and what are the thoughts that I'm having. I deconstruct it and
Yeah.
it kind of goes away.
You're rational, Bob. That's becoming rational.
It is
Absolutely. And if it
rational.
took
It is very
meditation,
rational.
not medication, to become rational,
Yeah,
then do it,
it
man. Yeah,
is.
as
It
long as
is.
be a more rational human being.
It
I love it.
is. It
Yeah.
is. That meditation is completely rational.
Well, I don't want to go that far. I've become more rational. I didn't do any meditation, so
Well,
or
that's not
medication.
the only
I
way.
just started thinking differently, Bob. I
Yeah,
changed
but
my mind in the
it's
way I
not the
thought about
only
things.
way. You're
It's not the
making
only
it.
way. No, I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it. We
Yeah.
can,
So
yeah, operational hypothesizing. I love it. I
right.
love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. So funny. So values. I want to get into values a little bit
Mm-hmm.
here.
Right. Okay.
As far as your values,
Mm-hmm.
where do they come from?
Um, where do my values come from? Well, they come from, I guess, study,
Hmm,
tutelage, mentorship,
hmm,
my father,
hmm.
and also a lot of experiment and a lot of mistakes, things that have not worked in my life. I used
Huh.
to be a mob lawyer. I was pretty arrogant.
Wow.
Not a lot of people liked me.
I can
Uh,
imagine. Wow, Bob.
and now I'm the kind of guy that people ask me to write letters for them. They ask me to, they come and want to talk to me and get my advice on things.
Hmm,
They want me to head up committees and let me do all this stuff because, it seems that life is pretty easy for me.
hmm.
And
Is it, Bob?
um, it is.
Hmm, hmm. Pretty easy. Well, and is it because of the energies or the meditation or just the way of thinking?
I think when you say energies, I feel there's a little bit of sarcasm in that. Again, you're going back to a statement that I thought we had agreed on, that the energy or the idea of a good energy is a creation on my part. It's
Yeah.
not something that comes from heaven or comes from a different
Gotcha. So
dimension.
you agree it is that you are creating that positive energy then. Okay. So it's not a
I,
universal thing. It's something that's
I,
within you.
I don't go that far. I would
Yeah.
say that I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I believe
It's hard to
that
figure out what you
energy.
believe though.
Well, I
He's just
think
got this idea, but there's no structure to it. You've got the bones, but you've got nothing else. And it's really hard to understand what it is if there's no, rest of the
mm,
product there.
And that only is important if you believe that it's vital to understand.
I like understanding, Bob.
Well, you do, I
That's what we
don't.
do here in this
Yeah.
show is we try to understand. But I
Mhm.
mean, if there's nothing there, there's nothing there. I mean, I can't, can't help you there. Can't help
Okay.
me there. Sorry.
All right.
Well, I thank you for that. This has been very interesting. But I am curious on
Mhm.
what you feel of the Bible. What is your opinion on it? What is it? Anything there?
I think the Bible, I think that to some extent there is some historical, uh, uh, I mean, as far as the tribes and the movements
Hmm.
of tribes and the existence of different city states and the like and all that Old Testament stuff. I think that there's probably some historical value to it. I think that there's a lot of folks that have had life lessons and have tried to portray them in ways that carry down. Uh,
Hmm.
I think that it gets more important. The Old Testament to me seems to be an historical text.
Hmm.
Um, there's
Well,
I
it, it tends to disagree a lot with archaeology, but we
oh
can
yeah,
use
yeah,
it as
yeah, yeah, yeah.
an
It did.
idea of different times and frames and
Yeah,
kings and places. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
based on the understanding that people had of the world at the time. I always find it interesting that the Old Testament God is a vengeful, mean old guy who's
Hmm.
going to throw down thunderstorms and stuff, and
Yeah.
then and at that time when God was perceived that way, people were pretty much the same.
Hmm.
Warring tribes and things going on.
Yeah.
Allegedly, I say that very, very
Yeah.
seriously, allegedly, we've become a little bit more civilized
Hmm.
and our God has become a little bit more civilized. And I find that's
Hmm.
kind of interesting
Yes.
how
Oh.
the perception of God tracks the, change in culture.
Hmm. Hmm.
As far as the miracles and the virgin
Hmm.
birth and substitutionary atonement and all of
Yeah.
that stuff, I leave that to the reverends and the discussers. It's not important to me.
Hmm.
It's not important in the slightest bit. The
Hmm.
miracles are not important. So whether there's something that happened or nothing that happened, I personally don't care.
Hmm.
What I do care about, that I think where the Bible does have something to offer, is that there are a lot of life lessons. And I think that the parables
Hmm.
are good parables and they're good teaching
Eh.
parables. And I personally believe that Jesus was a Buddhist priest. I
Oh,
believe
wow.
I believe that Jesus traveled to India
Uh-huh.
and through India, and there's a lot of evidence to believe that's true, and that he got to a monastery in
Yeah.
Ladakh, in Tibet,
Uh-huh.
and studied there for a while. And there were scrolls that and he learned and he studied and he came back because what he taught when he came back after his 32 years of not 32
Hmm.
years is
Yeah. Yeah.
20 whatever,
Yeah. I got
when
you.
he left at 13, came back at
Yeah.
32, allegedly. But
Math.
when he
Yeah.
came
It's in
back,
there.
which is crazy because think about it. How could somebody who was seen as a prodigy that was creating miracles and turning water into wine and doing all this stuff and
Hmm.
teaching people in the temple,
Supposedly. Yeah.
supposedly, how would somebody like that not be tracked starting at 13? Oh, well, and all the Bible says about it is, and he grew and prospered. I mean, come on. So he had to go somewhere. And I
Yeah.
really think that's where he went, because when he came back, his parables are mirrored in
Mm-hmm.
the sutras.
Hmm.
There are the same parables are in the
A lot.
sutras
Yeah.
as the parables that he taught. The same teachings and the idea of love and empathy and
Hmm.
forgiveness and all these are all Buddhist teachings. So I don't, I mean, in terms of, again, I get to that word belief,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I choose to accept the theory
Oh, there it
that
is. Choose
there
to
it is.
accept. Nice job, Bob.
I choose to accept the theory that Jesus traveled in India and Tibet before he came back, and that he learned a great deal there and taught. But of course,
Hmm.
any kind of religious dogma is going to go against that, because it would mean
Hmm.
deconstruction of everything that Christianity holds as the glue that keeps it
Yeah,
together.
that means God didn't give him that information. He got it
Yeah.
from another
So that was,
sources.
yeah. Mhm.
Awesome. Bob, great answer. Bob, this has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed this very much. We're gonna close it out here. Any last words, and then where can we find your stuff?
Well, you can, as I say, I teach meditation. I'd be happy to have you as a student. I'd give you a good discount.
Oh, well, we'll think about it. We'll think about it. I don't know. Might be a little too jittery for
You
that.
would enjoy I think I think that you would enjoy meditation,
Hmm.
just as a practice.
Hmm.
But
Well, we'll talk
it-
about that later. Maybe we'll see. We'll see.
okay, I'm being a little facetious.
Mhm, mhm.
So I the only thing that I would leave folks to is don't be so sure about your thinking.
Mm.
Always remember that it is the product of a lot of indoctrination, a lot of conditioning, a lot of misunderstood events, especially the stuff that happened when we were young.
Mm.
And it's nice sometimes to kind of go into the attic and see if you can clear some of the crap out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do some spring cleaning, even though
Yeah.
spring's past. We'll just
Yeah.
summer cleaning. Yeah, screw it. Where can we find you at again? Did you look at
Oh,
the
yeah,
website?
yeah.
Or,
So it's a wiseandhappylife.com/meditation. Or
Perfect.
if you're interested in my book, iamthewaybook.com.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you so much, Bob. This has been a blast. We'll stay in touch.
This has been a lot of fun. Yeah, and a bit challenging. So thank you so much for having me on. I
Absolutely.
enjoyed the conversation. This is the kind of conversation that I just love to be in. So thank you for it. I
Preach
appreciate
it, Bob.
Okay.
Love it. Talk to you later, man.
Bye.
That's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. As always, you can find all things BSW related on the show's website at thebiblesayswhat.com. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to thebiblesayswhat.com and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will get you early access to each new episode on Wednesdays instead of Sundays. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly share and review the show?